Hello everyone, this is part 2 of chapter 8 of Kensuke's Kingdom. And with us again we have
Brooke, Taylor,
Robin, Asia,
Gabby,
Pietro.
and we are going to read it now and then we'll answer these 5 questions. How long has Kensuke been living on the island? Why did Michael feel torn on page 127? Why did Michael not put the note in the bottle immediately after he had written it? Why couldn't Michael look at Kensuke after he had sent his message in a bottle? Why did Kensuke think Michael was ill? So, reading on. So that was it, the whole story. He stopped rowing for a while and smiled down at me. You are like son to me now. We happy people, we paint, we fish, we happy. We stay together, you and my family now, Miss Gann, yes? Yes, I said, I meant it and felt it too. He let me take the oar and showed me how to row his way, standing up, feet planted well apart. It wasn't as easy as he made it look. Clearly he trusted me to get us back, for he sat back in the bow of the outrigger to rest and fell asleep almost at once, his mouth open, his face sunken. He always looked even older when he slept. As I watched him, I tried to picture his face as it must have been when he first came to the island all those years ago, over 40 years. I owed him so very much. He had saved my life twice, fed me and befriended me. He was right, we were happy and I was his family. But I had another family too. I thought of the last time I'd been out in a boat, of my mother and my father and how they must be grieving for me every day, every night. By now they must surely believe I was drowned, that there was no chance I could be alive. But I wasn't drowned, I was alive. Somehow I had to let them know it. As I struggled to bring the outrigger back to the island that afternoon, I was filled with a sudden powerful longing to see them again, to be with them. I could steal the boat, I thought. I could row away, I could light a fire again. But I knew, even as I thought that, I could not do it. How could I ever leave Kensuke now, after all he had done for me? How could I betray his trust? I tried to put the whole idea out of my mind, and I really believe I would have too. But the very next morning I found the plastic Coke bottle washed up on the beach, and after that, the idea of escape came back and haunted me day and night, and would not leave me be. For some days I kept the Coke bottle buried under the sand, whilst I wrestled with my conscience, or rather justified what I wanted to do. It wouldn't really be a betrayal, I told myself. Even if the bottle was found, no one would know where to come to. They'd just know I was alive. I made up my mind I would do it, and do it as soon as I could. Kensuke had gone off octopus fishing. I had stayed behind to finish his shell painting, or so I had told him. I found an old sheet at the bottom of one of his chests and tore away a small corner of it. Then I knelt down at the table, stretched it out and painted my message on it in octopus ink. To the Peggy Sue, Fareham, England. Dear Mum and Dad, I am alive, I am well, I live on an island. I do not know where, come and find me. Love, Michael. I waited until it was dry, then I rolled it up, dug my Coke bottle out of the sand, slipped in my message and screwed the bottle up tight. I made quite sure Kensuke was still intent on his fishing and set off. I ran the entire length of the island, keeping always to the forest, so that there was no chance Kensuke could see where I was going or what I was up to. The gibbons howled their accusations at me, all the way, the entire forest cackling and screeching its condemnation. I just hoped Stella would not bark back at them, would not betray where I was. Fortunately, she didn't. At last I reached the rocks under Watch Hill. I leaped from rock to rock until I was standing right at the very end of the island, the waves washing over my feet. I looked around me. Stella was the only witness. I hurled the bottle as far out to sea as I possibly could. Then I stood and watched it as it bobbed away and out to sea. It was on its way. I didn't touch my fish soup that night. Kensuke thought I was ill. I could barely talk to him. I couldn't look him in the eye. I lay all night to deep torment, racked by my guilt. yet at the same time still hoping against hope that my bottle would be picked up. Kensuke and I were at our painting table the next day when Stella came padding into the cave. She had the Coke bottle in her mouth. She dropped it and looked up at me, panting and pleased with herself. Kensuke laughed and reached down to pick it up. I think he was about to hand it to me when he noticed there was something inside it. By the way he looked at me, I was quite sure he knew at once what it was. Okay. So, first question. How long has Kensuke been living on the island? Gabby?
40 years.
40 years. Let's go back to that text then so we can see it. Who can see where it says 40 years? 40 years there. Over 40 years. There we are. Next one. Nice bit of retrieval there, Gabby. Why did Michael feel torn on page 27? Why did he feel torn? What do we mean by that? Let's find that extract again. Leave Kensuke after all he had done for me. He was torn. What was he torn between? Robin?
Betraying Kensuke or not betraying him.
Exactly, betraying him and possibly finding his family again, his mother and father, or not betraying him. Really torn there. Two sets of people he really cared about. Well, it will describe Robin. Why did Michael not put the note in the bottle immediately after he'd written it? Why do you think that? Why do you think that was? Why did he put it in the bottle? Why didn't he, sorry? Aisha? Aisha, sorry.
Because he didn't want it to seem like he was. Because he wanted to think about it before he done it.
Well explained, because he wanted to think about it. He wasn't. He didn't know how he could portray Kensuke. He was torn. Because he was torn between portraying him but really powerfully wanting to see his parents again. Why couldn't Michael look at Kensuke after he had sent his message in a bottle? You've kind of got your answer in the last two questions there. Taylor? Didn't want to look suspicious, but why else? What other emotion might he be feeling, I wonder? Pietro?
He'll be feeling sad because Kensuke is a really good friend to Michael.
How do we feel when we do something that we know we shouldn't? We can get a feeling sometimes of, what's the word? Anyone, Brooke? Confused. Maybe if we heard the word guilty. You feel a bit guilty. You feel you wanted to do that thing, but you know that in another part of you, you don't want to do it, and you're really conflicted with that. Why did Kensuke think Michael was ill? Robin?
Because he didn't eat his dinner.
Yes, spot on. Really good retrieval, really good listening skills. So tomorrow, we will read chapter 9, and then the following day, we will read chapter 10, and that will be the end of Kensuke. I'm really looking forward to finding out what happens. I wonder how Kensuke will react. He seems a very wise person, but maybe a betrayal and losing someone he loves again will really, really upset him. We'll find out in the next chapter. What do we say?
Bye.
Fantastic. No, I don't think so.
It didn't. It was recording.
Yeah, it's just low battery, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Robin.